Plus, Josh Wilkerson was brutally murdered by an illegal immigrant, and as the Senate takes up a key vote now on cracking down on so-called sanctuary cities, one prominent Democratic lawmaker is calling it the, quote, Donald Trump Act. But Josh's mother sees it very differently.
A thank you to Mr. Trump for getting a message out about the nation in 2 minutes. It feels good to be heard, whether you love him or whether you don't. I felt heard.
All right, Fox News alert now, because we're going to go back to our top story, the key vote in the Senate on the so-called sanctuary cities and the effort to crack down on them. This in the wake of several high-profile crimes linked to suspects who were in this country illegally. The Chicago case of William Dennis McCann was one of them. He was killed by a drunk driver who was here illegally. The suspect then posted bond and ran off to Mexico. And to make matters even worse, he had been prosecuted for a felony 2 years earlier, but ICE was never notified. McCann's brother testified about the case this past summer before the Senate Judiciary Committee.
It's just been a pathetic miscarriage of justice visited upon my family and hundreds of other families across the country. All eyes are on both the Senate and the House Judiciary Committee. I'm convinced this is where a resolution rests, because these sanctuary jurisdictions are going to get away with literally murder passing these policies, and you guys got to do it.
And that man, Brian McCann, joins me now. Again, we are sorry for the loss of your brother, Brian. And as we watch the Senate take up this issue today, what do you want to happen?
Well, needless to say, Gretchen, we want it to pass. I listened to Senator Toomey this morning briefly before I left, and or Senator Toomey, and then I read a little bit about Senator Vitter's comments over the weekend. And I've looked at the Center of Immigration Studies and my good friends in the Remembrance Project, and we're all hoping and praying that this bill will pass today.
Yeah, you know, here's the thing, Brian. It's going to probably fall on party lines, and this is one of the reasons why Americans are so frustrated with members of Congress on both sides, because Republicans will probably vote for it, but they need 6 Democrats for this vote to actually move forward. And for the life of me, I can't imagine why this is a partisan issue. Can you?
No, not at all. Not at all. What's happening, regrettably, is the Obama administration's decision to inaugurate the so-called PEP program will result, and it already has resulted, in far more illegal aliens have been released from these sanctuary jurisdictions.
Right.
And it's all very political. It's all about votes. There's a big election coming up, as we all know.
True.
And this will improve their chances of winning the
Brian,
presidency.
Here's the frustration that I know you feel as well. This is not about immigration. This is about illegal immigrants who have committed serious crimes in this country. That's a different group of people. And I just don't know why the parties can't come together and at least agree on if you've been thrown out of the country twice before, and if you've been convicted of an aggravated felony or worse, like in the case of your brother, killing him, that you should not be allowed to come back and you're going to go to prison. I just don't get it.
I completely agree. Again, it's political. The vast majority of the Democrats with the immigrant population support these lax immigration laws. Perhaps they've been conned into thinking that they make the argument very effectively that the Hispanic community is safer with lax immigration laws. And they're very good at making that argument. But they also are a little less than honest when they're making their case. Here in Cook County, they claim that, in fact, just last week, one of the commissioners that voted for the ordinance to let my brother's killer flee said that there's been no problem since. When he was reminded about my brother, he seemed to think he didn't even know what to say.
As if your brother's life,
tell lies.
As if your brother's life didn't matter. But you know what? I'm just going to go back to
this is the
frustration, Mr. McCann, that people have with their elected politicians because none of them appear to have the guts to vote outside of the party and vote with conviction about human beings that are citizens here in the United States of America. And there is your brother there. He died as a result of that. And no wonder people like outsiders right now in this political race because they speak their mind and they're not beholden to a political party. Brian McCann, our heart and our prayers are with you, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through this with the death of your brother. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks so much, Gretchen. Appreciate it.
For more on what will happen legally if the bill passes or doesn't pass, let's bring in the expert, Judge Anna Napolitano, senior judicial analyst.
A terrible story.
It's such a terrible story. And for that commissioner, Judge, to tell that man, his brother, that, oh, by the way.
All is well in Chicago.
Yeah, all is well, because nothing's happened since. Yeah. Let's talk about what the Senate is going to do today.
So the Congress can spend money however it wants. It can't regulate however it wants, but it can spend however it wants. So if, for example, it wants to lower speed limits to 55. It can't just enact that law, but it can offer money to the states and cities and say, in return for this cash, you have to lower your speed limits to 55. And the states and cities often accept that money with whatever strings because they're all cash strapped. In this case, the Congress has, through a variety of grants, given cash to the cities already. It wants to impose strings after it gave the cash. And the strings it wants to impose now are, you have to enforce the federal immigration laws. And if you have an illegal immigrant here, we're not saying you have to arrest him. Tell us, tell ICE, and we'll do the arresting. So the court has never looked at this yet. Can you impose the strings after you give the cash? But that's actually what's going to be voted upon in the Senate this afternoon.
Okay, because we've heard before about restricting federal funding moving forward. But you're saying that the money has already been given.
Well, the money is not given at one time.
I see.
The money comes in a variety of installments. The Senate would like the next installment to stop unless and until where we live, where we work now, New York City, San Francisco, whatever city it is, agrees to inform the feds when they release an illegal alien from one of their jails. This is not heavy lifting for the city. This isn't going to cost the city any money. It's an email or a phone call or a fax.
It seems so ridiculous to me. But anyway, can Congress do anything about actually making these cities then enforce the laws other than stripping away money?
No, because the way our federal system is set up, Congress cannot what's called commandeer, take over the judgment of the local cities, their police departments, their city councils and mayors. It can only coerce or induce that behavior with cash. It can't take it over.
I wish I had Harry Reid's comment about what he was calling this whole law that's supposed to be passed. He basically called it the Donald Trump law.
He was highly inappropriately mocking the memory of somebody like Mr. McCann's brother.
Judge, it's a complicated issue, but we'll see if the Senate actually does anything about it.
You might be surprised in the next half hour. We might be surprised. Who knows?
You know what? That would be a major Fox News alert.
Yes.
Judge.
Shep will cover it.
Thank you.